Yeah, as I said, so, oh, shoot. No, I think I did give a former spoiler warning. So here is even more of a former spoiler, a formal spoiler warning. I will probably some of the volume titles may give spoilers, and I probably do a little spoilers. But as I said, this is more of an outline. So if you're interested, this might be some direction and some context to what you're about to read. So volume two is called my translation is called "The Fire of the Sun." Um, the Chinese title is 太阳之火, right? It's around 374 chapters, of which 20 of them are free, and the rest are what they call VIP, or paid for chapters. And it covers a lot of nuclear reactor technologies and some intrigue. This is where the author starts to really build up a lot of tension, a lot of characters, and he writes them quite well, in my opinion. And it's really cool to see the direction it goes to. There's a lot of content in the first two. This is the longest chapter, half the book even, right, is focused on volume two. And really a lot of the action scenes really start to end up near the end of volume two and volume three. So if you're not excited by then, it may be time to put down the book, at the end of volume three at least. But a breakdown of the Chinese title, 太阳之火, because this is, analysis. 太阳 means sun. It's a conjunction word meaning sun. Tai by itself, that individual character tai, generally means large, big, something of the sort, a large amount or big, or even old, right? Or I think the term would be grand as well, even, but I could be wrong. And then Yang, I've never seen Yang be an independent character. I think maybe for Sun's Ray, but Yang is generally, I don't think, independent. It's generally always in conjunction with Tai. But Tai can be with other words, like Tai Re Tai, like extreme would be. But yeah, Taiyang, Yang is always with Tai. And so those two words in conjunction mean the word sun. Then you get to 之火, which means fire of. 之 means of, like of something, and then 火 means fire, right? So 太阳之火, if you literally translate it, to be son of fire, but with the way Chinese grammar works, it's just fire of the sun. And then you get to volume three, which can be translated to Babel Road, but I think a better translation would be Road to Heaven. The Chinese title is 同天之路. It has 60 chapters, and it starts to focus on more of the game aspects. It goes into the background of the video game, the future, and other interesting scenes that the author really decided to include. Very fascinating stuff. Very descriptive. Very well written. Now, just a breakdown of the terms. As I said, I try to keep this less spoilers because I just want to give you guys an outline. But so I'm not going to go very in depth, but I'll give a basic summary. 同天之路, that's the Chinese title. Now, 同天 generally means heaven, and how that breaks up is 同, that individual character, means to open up, I think, and then 天 generally means sky, or it can even be used as the word heaven, right? 知, as I mentioned, so 同天, together. I think the machine translation from Baidu is direct access to the highest authorities. 知, as I mentioned before, is of. And then 路 generally means road. I can even break down the characters of 路, but I'm not going to. A little bit later then. Maybe. So then we get to volume 4. I think the best title would be Earth's Last Journey, right? Forgive me for the pronunciation of this. Two terms I don't recognize. But the Chinese title is 地球装模旅行. 地球装模旅行. Total of 80 chapters. Volume 80 chapters. Oh, okay, so volume 3 was the shortest one. Volume 4 is more the average later length of the chapters. We're really getting into the end game here. All of volume 3, volume 4, volume 5 is all VIP. So it's all VIP, which means you have to pay for them. Generally, I'm not going to mention other things, but the testimonials and the epilogue are not. But yeah, so these 80 chapters are all VIP. So just a quick summary of what happens here. This is really where the author puts in some interesting ideas into play. A lot of the foreshadowing. He throws in some cultural references that are quite great. And he talks more about how the story develops. He makes time pass by, and you see character development and some fascinating story ideas. But just a quick breakdown of the title. 地球 generally means Earth. right? How that breaks down to is di. That Chinese character means ground, earth, dirt, land, or place, and then qiu is just ball. And the way that this comes out to is very similar to how English uses geo. Geo, like geocaching. Gaia would be something. And like Earth, in the way that Earth, how Earth was named, Earth in Greek. How people call geo, like there's some terms that like geo means like dirt, right? So like Earth is kind of like a dirt ball, right? Because Earth is one of the planets that wasn't named after a Greek god, like Venus, Jupiter, Mars. So yeah, Earth really symbolizes like Earth. Earth is special, right? Not just because it's home, but the way we call it in terminology, it's very similar to dirt ball. Even colloquially, we call it the blue marble. So in Chinese, it generally means dirt ball. It could also mean ground ball, the land ball, or even like like our home planet. Even one could say that's what it translates to. But the more literal translation is dirt ball. 庄末 generally means end, death, demise, finish in the sense to end. And then mo, I think, means last, final, or terminal, as in final or incurable. And together, it felt like that formed the term last, 庄末. And then 旅行, 旅 by itself generally means travel or vacation. That's generally what the term means, having to do with travel in general. And then 行 is just a conjunction word. It's a homophone for another word called bank, right? Ying. But 旅行 generally is always in conjunction with each other, and it just means to travel or journey. And altogether translates to Earth's last journey. And then the very last volume is called The Stars in the Fog City. The Chinese title is 雾都全星, 雾都全星. A total of 95 chapters. This is the last stretch. And it's one of the longer ones. He puts a little bit more effort. I didn't. I'll get into it in a little bit. So I didn't really read this chapter for various reasons. One of which is that this is a chapter that the author. So as I mentioned before, the author inserts a couple of anime culture references and characters, and one of those influences ends up getting a whole volume. It's not a fan fiction, but he pretty much makes this volume a tribute to another web novel, The Lord of Mysteries, A Lord of Mysteries. And that's one of a couple reasons why I skipped this volume. And I'm going to be honest here. I didn't read this volume, so I didn't read the full story. One of it's because I was kind of tired. I wasn't interested with the way the author was writing, and I don't think I could have made it through volume 5 because I felt like I got most of the good parts between 1 through 4. I got most of the content. However, there might have been some important and great scenes that I missed out on, and information that would have been cool to read. But I felt because I didn't read Lord of Mysteries, I wouldn't be able to get into it. One is I couldn't get into the Lord of Mysteries itself, and two is I wouldn't be able to get into this story, this volume as well. Because I felt that even if I did read it, a lot of references would have gone over my head, and I just would have missed out. So yeah, that's really cool. So a quick analysis on the title, or just a breakdown. Originally, I thought 雾都 was an inseparable term. But looking back, it's not. 雾 generally means fog, right? So, or even mist, although I'm pretty sure they have a different term. From what I've been informed from a couple friends I talked to, 雾 is the distinctive term for fog and mist, but I'm not 100% sure. It's generally used in the term 海雾. I think there's a term called 海雾, which is sea fog. And then 都, that's not the way usually people read it and it's written, but in this context, it's 都. What that means is city, capital, metropolis. And it can mean in a grammatical term is entirely, which is 多, but because it's pronounced 都, it means city, capital, metropolis. And an example would be a city called Chengdu, right? And so that's a city in China that uses the term 都. So 雾都 means fog. And then you have 全, 全星, that means galaxy or various stars. Now, 全, I'm pretty sure is a measure word for a group of, or like a group of, in the following term, stars. Although I originally thought it was 群, like, for a group of people, but it doesn't sound right. So I'm pretty sure it's just 全. And then 星 just means stars. So altogether translates to 雾都全星 is the stars in the Fog City. And Fog City is I think an important place in Lord of Mysteries. And then finally, there's the epilogue. It totals around 7 chapters, and this is the home stretch. He ended it really well, I thought. So in the author testimonials, or in one of his final thoughts chapters, he wrote that he could have written more. I personally think that he wanted to end with the 8th chapter, or reserve the 8th chapter for some of his thoughts on his book, his thanks to various patrons and readers, his editor, and like it's just his wrap up. It's his wrap up chapter where he gets to write about what he thought about the story. Yeah, so basically his concluding thoughts and anything else he wanted to add on. And I think the reason why he did that is because, in Chinese, 8 or ba, or I think it's ba ba in Chinese, means generally has a connotation of money, right? And that's my guess and analysis on why he chose to end on the 8th chapter. And I definitely would have loved to read more, but he ended it in a good place. He brought a lot of closure to the stories, to the characters, to a lot of the storylines. And I thought that was a really good place to end. And with that note, it really wraps up my summary of Tomorrow Has Not Arrived, Ming Er Weilin. And just a very quick PS or postscript.